Dadnarok presents the Ted Lasso After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we were episode 3 of season 2, Do the Right-est thing, which I guess is a play off Do the Right thing. Just the saying and the old, I think there was a Spike Lee joint back in the day. But yeah, if you guys don't know, we are Dadnarok. We are here each and every week. Right at this time, 10 p.m. on Friday nights. We talk about the latest episode of Ted Lasso. We've also had after shows for the Disney Plus adventures, including WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Mandalorian. You can find all of those videos on our YouTube channel. If you've not already subscribed to our YouTube page, go there now and just do it. Do it.
Yeah. And we're interactive. Add something. Anytime you can interject in the conversation, by all means, do so. Well, we love the interaction. But what do we got going on, John? What was this episode about here? This is
a big episode. You had watched it before me, and you texted me, and you're like, "Man, this thing was
dense." Yeah, I think I used the word dense, and then I was like, if you guys been watching us, you know we do clips along the way, and I was like, there's a topic in the show that I don't know if we wanted to avoid because we avoid any type of political things.
There's no avoiding it.
There's no way in this episode. So I was like, okay, how do we get something that works or touch on it, but not linger on it?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the tap dance that we're going to be doing today.
Well, I don't know. So it makes sense, right? Like this is a show, this is a topic. So, I mean, we're kind of burying the lead here, and we'll talk about each character's kind of individual journey in this episode, but it was their version of the NFL kneeling controversy from a few years back. And I guess it's still kind of ongoing, where players were, taking a knee for, Black Lives Matter and that whole movement, the thing that Colin Kaepernick kind of initiated originally a few years ago, and it's kind of spread. I mean, it's spread to other sports and stuff as well.
And soccer is one of them. I mean, it's bled into soccer for a lot of reasons. Like you said, Black Lives Matter and everything else. So it's morphed outside of just our country, and it's gone into other countries for to bring awareness to certain things. And Jason Sudeikis is actually very. I don't know if you noticed, but he's been wearing a lot of a black shirt with 3 players' names on it. And
I have seen that. Yeah.
Did you know the meaning behind the shirt by any chance?
He said something on Late Night with Stephen Colbert recently, but I didn't look up the story as far as what that was about.
It's the 3 black players that were on the English soccer team when they were playing in the Euros 2020. So the one that just happened.
Okay.
They stepped up to take penalty shots, and all 3 of them missed.
Oh.
And there was huge backlash against them and the manager.
Oh, I do remember
because
that. I remember when that happened. Yeah.
Because they both lost the game, and they lost the championship, which they haven't won in forever. I'm not sure when the last time.
And then people got real racist real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there was that. So seeing that they addressed something like this in his show, doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of the, the spearhead of this whole endeavor here, this whole show, a showrunner and a writer, and the name, the character, he is Ted Lasso.
He
I
is
don't know
Ted
if anybody
Lasso.
else could play this role, but beyond that, I mean, it's just, if you are in a sports related show and you're post, 2017 or so, like this is going to be eventually a topic. So if they never did something like this, it probably would have felt weird, just because what universe are they living in? Clearly it's not ours.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so as far as what happens this episode, we'll get into Ted a little bit. I mean, the star of the show here, not much from Ted. This had probably the least amount of Ted Lasso in an episode of Ted Lasso.
And that's so actually, I think, a good thing.
Yeah.
There's so many other great characters in this show. Pulling back from Ted a little bit, and we got enough of him to know the direction he wanted to go for the show to go. He kind of still drove the show in a certain direction,
right?
But it was led by other characters.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's funny is that we got the least amount of Ted, but even a lot of the Ted that we did get, it wasn't even Ted Lasso. It was Led Tasso.
Led Tasso.
Ted was gone there for a few scenes.
Oh, when he looked over at Coach Beard and he was like, "They got to meet the other guy." He was like, Not the other guy.
Yeah, Beard was not feeling it. He's not a huge fan of Led Tasso, but so yeah, so what was his whole reasoning in doing that? Oh, I guess because of the issues with Jamie, as
Yeah, he
far as
wanted basically the psychiatrist. I forget her name off the top of my head.
Sharon.
Dr. Sharon. Yeah, she went ahead and called him out on it. Basically, after I'm jumping ahead a little bit,
Yeah,
but it was more of a he wanted them to look at him as the asshole and distract them from Jamie coming back because.
right.
I mean, Jamie went through his own thing. I mean, they went in there. He tried to do the right thing. He tried to be the stand up,
Tried to
address
apologize.
everything,
Yeah,
and it went horribly wrong.
yeah.
And Sam's sitting over in the corner, and I almost expected Sam to stand up at some point, like towards the end when the whole team was jumping on Jamie.
Yeah.
I was expecting Sam to be the leader that he's become in that locker room.
Sam still got harsh feelings towards Jamie, though.
Yeah.
He was almost the coldest shoulder towards Jamie.
Yeah, because he walked right by him, looked at him, kind of smiled like you got what you deserved,
right,
and just kept going. And then they were out in the field, and Jamie was relegated to the practice squad, which he was playing it off like he's like, I know I'll be back on the big first squad ego type trip. Like what would you expect from Jamie?
Bless him. It's this
bless his heart.
Yeah, bless his sweet little heart. But I mean, he's trying, right? Like he's still got the Jamie quips, and he's still very high on himself, right? But he's putting in a good faith effort to try to do better,
to fix things he's ruined in the past.
Exactly. Yeah. He even when the show opens, Ted's about to address the team in the locker room, and Jamie has to talk to everyone, and he gives a pretty heartfelt apology. He's like, I was an ass, and he takes ownership of his behavior from the previous season. But yeah, like you mentioned, none of the players are having it yet. So Ted takes it upon himself to be like, if I give the entire team a new common enemy, then they can rally around with each other, and but it was just so out of the blue. I don't know if anyone would have really believed that.
Not for the minute. I mean, everyone was kind of rolling with it, like, okay, what's going on here?
And Ted Lasso, I don't think he really even knows how to be like a hard ass, because even the stuff he was doing he was yelling and stuff, but it was still pretty funny.
Touch your foot fingers. Tell me what? Touch other people's toes.
Touch your toes. Touch each other's toes.
You want to make this ball your girlfriend?
That whole long diatribe about the ball and making it your wife.
Oh, and then it was like where it gets pumped up. You want to kiss this? I was like, Jesus, what's going on here?
I don't know. He just kept going and going. It was funny stuff though.
Oh no, it was really good. No, I liked when they finally got to when they were practicing. I think this was before the multi-personality came out in Ted.
Yeah.
But they're running around and Jamie's kind of doing his own thing on the field. Being Jamie, and then all of a sudden Sam comes out of nowhere and just tackles him, takes the ball away, and then he looks down at him. He said, a few things have changed around here. And he does that little brother thing on him with the hair to the hand to the head. Right. And Jamie's like, oh, what just happened?
Nate knew too. Nate was like, taking.
Oh, he said they're going to eat him up.
Yeah.
He was waiting for it. He said they're going to destroy him.
Yeah.
And it didn't take but a few minutes of him trying to be fancy out there, and they went right at him.
Right, they did. Well, Nate has his own, problems with Jamie in the past too. Jamie kind of tormented him, and had his lackeys torment him at the time too. But yeah, I mean, speaking of Jamie, he kind of goes through the motions here, and he ends up sitting down with Sharon. Now we don't see a conversation. First, he goes to Keeley to try to.
Keeley was having none of it.
Keeley's busy.
Yeah.
You can tell Keeley has a job to do, and she's working hard at it. She doesn't.
I love the development of Keeley.
Yeah.
And how she went from just like a C internet star with telling people where to go, to visit,
right,
to now where she is like got a big part on this football team when it comes to like the media department.
Oh, and she's doing it well too. Yeah, she gave Jamie about 15 seconds to blather on and on until she was like, "Let's get up."
She's like, "Walk with me." And they're walking, and he's talking. And he keeps going on like, "Should I hang my head because I'm the best player in the team, or I'm going to score goals?" Right. And she just lets him go. She walks in and says, "This is Dr. Sharon." She smiles. Sharon looks at both of them, And then Keely walks out the room.
She's like, she actually gets paid to listen to your problems, so have at it. And Jamie's like, all I got to do is sit here and talk about myself. And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And he's all about it. So we don't get to actually, I would have been curious to hear that conversation between the two of them, but it's probably still not fully resolved. I don't know. Towards the end of this episode, Jamie seems to find a common ground between he and the other teams. They might be able to heal and move forward now. But that's not even like the biggest thing that happened in this as far as repercussions for the team.
Yeah,
we'll get into it. But another thing Keely is getting into now is, she's getting marketing things for the team. Each individual player has their own things, branding things that she can kind of hook them up with. One of which is, I guess, a sponsorship from Dubai Air, which I didn't notice, but Dubai Air has like their logo.
Yeah, Dubai Air is the main one, but yeah. And that's true about like all the soccer clubs over there. The main sponsor, unlike here in the States, where it's like, the New York Jets, the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's predominant. They're actually they're sponsored by corporations, and then the corporation is actually the main logo. On it, and it's the same with our soccer clubs here.
Yeah. Which isn't a foreign concept to us. I mean, NASCAR is nothing but billboards going.
Yeah, that's always been a billboard. Yeah. I mean, they were sponsored by beer when they were driving for the longest
time. So he gets in the sponsorship from Dubai Air, which initially, like, they were pretty
pumped about.
Yeah, the whole team was proud of him for earning that sponsorship, and he was jazzed. And he's texting his father as he's kind of hanging out in the locker room late at night. And his father lets him know how disappointed he is, because he lets him know that the parent company of Dubai Air is apparently this big global corporation that is doing some treacherous stuff down in his home.
Centrithum Oil or something like that.
Yeah, in his home country of Nigeria, I believe. And it was not a good thing. And immediately kind of deflates Sam.
Yeah, because you see him, because he was on the bike, just kind of getting some work in.
Yeah.
And you see him, he sits up, and it's kind of, all of a sudden you see the wheels turn. Like, You see the conflict within real quick.
Right.
He's like, oh, I can't support something that is destroying my home.
Yeah, and what I did like about this, of course, he came to that decision pretty easily, because immediately he was like, I can't back this company that's doing these things. I was just uninformed, and now that I'm informed, I have to do something about it. But in a typical show, and I keep saying this about Ted Lasso, I keep giving the typical plot of TV shows, and it keeps like changing directions and giving me something different than the something I expect in my head, So the rest of this episode could have easily just been Sam trying to convince the team, the rest of the ownership, like, hey, I have to back out of this, and then being like, well, you just earned this, so we worked so hard for it. Is there really something else we could do?
Yeah.
But he didn't. There was none of that. Like, he went to the office, he explained himself to Keely and Rebecca. And immediately, Keely and Rebecca were like, "Yeah, you can't do that. We understand. We'll take care of it." Which was like, yeah, good.
Yeah, let's not fight them on this.
Right. So that's what they do. That's what their plan is. And later, and we'll talk about Rebecca's initiative to try to get that done when we talk about her. But later in the episode,
bitch.
Yeah, Rebecca had a big episode this episode too. But later they play a new game after kind of all this happens, and Sam pulls a sponsorship, and they're about to start up, and Sam, he puts on that jersey, and he can't even bring himself, it's not enough to not be sponsored by them. He just doesn't want to even, share their logo and plaster that all around on his jersey. So he covers it up. He explains to the guys in the locker room what it's about, and they join up with him, and they do the same thing, including Jamie. He's one of the first
Jamie was he had the other two players that were from Nigeria as well, and they didn't even hesitate.
Right.
Once they found out Sam was doing it and the reason behind it, they were just asked for the tape.
Sure.
And then the first one, I think this really meant a lot to Sam, because Sam was taken by it.
Right.
Jamie was like, toss me the tape.
Yeah.
And he did it. And Sam was like, what are you doing? He said, and this was big for him. The words that he used were, we are teammates.
Right.
We wear the same kit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that was the most genuine olive branch.
Right.
That Jamie has offered anybody on the team, even Lasso himself, or Keely. He offered it to Sam, and saying he knows now Sam is the leader of this team.
Yeah.
As Sam goes, this team goes. Not as Jamie goes. Jamie is now a cog in the wheel of this team.
Yeah. 1 of 11, right?
Yeah.
Just like Ted told him last season. Yeah, that was a big thing for Jamie to go ahead and step up and do. And so they go on into the field, and the entire team has taken some black tape and just covered that Dubai Air logo. And it's another thing. So in the crowd, it's like, this is something that Ted wasn't aware they were doing. Beard wasn't aware.
No idea.
Keely, Rebecca, none of them knew that they were going to do this, because this was a last minute decision right before they step out onto the pitch. And and in my head, I'm expecting them to be kind of mortified, like, oh my God, this is going to have such bad repercussions for the team. What are we going to do? But instead, they all just roll with it in support of Sam, because they know it's the right thing.
The teammates behind Ted and Coach Beard and Nate just stood up and started applauding.
Yeah.
Before we really even seen all of the team with it like that.
Right.
We knew Sam and we knew Jamie, we knew a couple of the players, but then you get that reaction from them, and then you get a cut reaction to the bar, and they're all kind of there. They didn't know what to think, what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. There wasn't a huge, cheer or anything from the bar. I think they were kind of
trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. And what the repercussions are. And that's what I like about this show too. I feel like they are one unit, from Rebecca on down to the the person who lays the towels out.
The 3 wankers in the bar.
Right. Like, they are a team, and they are there together, and they are moving through issues and problems together. And it's really the outside world that's coming with the issues and the problems, like, being relegated, or issues with sponsorship, or, just these hurdles that they have to jump over. It's not because of internal strife or struggle. There's a little bit of that with the stuff with Jamie coming back, and Roy having to be retired and whatnot. But Ted's really made this a cohesive family, a cohesive team, and they fight through issues together. On in one front. So, and this episode's another example of that. Rebecca, there were so many times in this episode where you would maybe expect a character like Rebecca, the head of a team, to have issues, and think about the money or financial, things like that.
Yeah.
But she was totally in line with, what's most important for these people that are on this team that I care about and that I want to succeed. So,
well, I think even Dr. Sharon said originally, she was like, you build a family. It's a team, but it's a family, and it's a family from ownership all the way down to, the new kick boy, even though he gets kicked around a little bit by Nate. But it's when one does something, everyone else stands behind them, and they keep on, putting that out there. It's like, you know what? We are one unit, no matter what. We're not going to watch each other fail.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get through that game, and, they get to celebrate a little bit. See if they celebrate a loss, at least they broke their tie streak, I guess.
Well, we didn't know they celebrated yet. You remember? Because they cut from the game, and they show Ted and Sam walk into the press conference.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine this place is going crazy.
Sure, it was lit up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Trent Krim got his question.
Yeah. Trent stands up there. Well, not Sam, but first Ted sits down. He's like, you know what? They asked me, did you know what was going on? I said, I had no idea what was going to go on.
Yeah.
If you want to know anything that, that came to that decision for them to happen, and I've just asked Sam.
Yeah, he rightfully defers to Sam, because that's the appropriate thing to do. And Sam straight up tells him, if you were here to ask me questions about football, that's not what's on my mind right now. I want to talk about this parent company, this oil company that's, with Dubai Air, and address that situation. So
because Trent asked him, said, did your distraction cause the loss of the for the team?
Right.
He's like, I'm not here to talk about football.
Yeah. So very heavy, dramatic, and of course it had a lighter air to it, a lighter feeling, because this is a positive Ted Lasso show. But they were dealing with stuff that's in people's minds and eyes.
Well,
and hearts
Sam
right
outright accused the Nigerian government of corruption.
Yeah, he sure did.
That's a big accusation to be making on a press conference that would have been aired. They're not a Premier League team, but something like that, ESPN, Sky Sports, Fox News, Fox Sports,
Yeah.
they would have all picked it up. They want to know what happened. This is what's blowing up Twitter. This is what's going on right now. We have to get in on this. So
Yeah.
everyone would have seen that accusation.
And that's kind of another side of this whole thing where there's this, there's a lot of folks out there where it's like, well, just shut up and play the sport that they pay to play. And, but, there's this other side of it where it's like, no, these people are people. They're not just athletes. They're people with opinions and ideas. And they have a platform where people are, they have a soapbox that they have the ability to stand on. And if they feel a certain way about something, they want to address it, and using the platform that they have. You and I are a couple of schlubs, and we have this platform.
Yeah, we have a platform right here. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going to get to that. So
yeah,
I mean, in reality, we can use it however we want to, and we choose to use it on, these after shows we enjoy. Yeah, are we wasting the platform? No, I don't know.
No, it's only a couple of people tuning in. Who cares? But
yeah.
So Sam does it, and he addresses them in the press box, I guess they call it there. And afterwards, he heads back to the locker room where they're celebrating.
They're celebrating the actual the law, so they broke their tie streak.
Yeah,
and I mean, there was a real good moment here. If you guys want to go ahead and check this out.
Hey! A toast to Sam, who did something incredible tonight. Little Nigerian prick stole my thunder. No, but seriously, to Sam.
Thank you, guys.
Well done, bro.
Appreciate it.
Took a lot of courage, man.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back, bro.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Is this a healed team? Are they gonna be able to move on in full force with Jamie in tow?
I think so. Honestly, I think, like we already spoke about how Jamie was the first one. Well, first he stood up and tried to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
The second olive branch he put out there was being the first one to put the tape on the name across the jersey.
Right.
And then doing this, I think wounds are healed. When you hear Sam saying it's nice to have you back, he wouldn't have said that before.
No. And he said it and meant it this time.
Yeah, you can tell in the way he said it, he meant it.
Yeah.
And Jamie was, said it was nice to be back. I don't think Jamie ever really wanted to be on ABC of Richmond. Right. He wanted to be on a higher level team.
Yeah.
But I think he's buying into the Lasso family. I'm just going to call it the Lasso family.
Yeah.
Because he's now seeing, what he didn't have with his father. How his father pushed and pushed and pushed.
Right.
He's seeing more of a caring side of what, that same type of father figure could be.
Yeah. Keeley knew it the whole time. Keeley knew that this is the team that Jamie needed to be on. And now Jamie's finally starting to believe that himself. You could even see it earlier in the episode when Ted was doing his whole Ted Lasso thing and being angry and difficult and yelling at the players. Jamie was one of the ones to speak up and be like, hey, don't yell at us like that. He was kind of sticking up for the rest of the team. Led or Ted's plan kind of worked a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But this other thing with Sam is what really drove it home.
Yeah, and that was the big part. I mean, when I was watching it, that was one of the best parts of the episode for me.
Yeah,
because I mean, Sam is becoming more and more of a forward character.
Yeah.
Like in last season, he was there, but he really wasn't focused on.
Right.
The more we go along the season, he is more in the forefront, and there's no pulling him back now. We know he's the leader. We know that this just happened. There's no way they can tuck this, just run away from the storyline. The storyline is going to be a part of the season. The rest of the way we go. If it leads to, Dubai pulling their sponsorship,
right,
and they got to find a new sponsor for the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, all those dynamics going forward.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see if maybe they're able to have, maybe a similar sort of focus to a lot of these different players. We kind of know, of course, last season we got to know Roy and Jamie pretty intimately, and like you said, Sam was kind of there. But a lot of these characters and these guys, I still don't even know their name by heart. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to spend more time with the individual players, so that way when we get to a point where these guys are playing up through and these games to see if they can get AFC Richmond back promoted, where you're really invested to see each and these players play and some of the dynamics in their lives too.
Football is life.
Right. Yeah. Football is life. So last but not least here certainly is Rebecca. We touched on it a little bit. Last season, she had kind of a B plot where, she had struggled with her best friend Sassy from before this whole life, before she married the owner of AFC Richmond. What was his name?
Dude,
I'm drawing a blank too.
Douchebag is called.
Yeah, the jerk. The jerk, right? But she separated from him, and towards the end of the season, I call her Sassy Smurf because that's what Ted calls her now. But her best friend.
That's
Sassy,
a whole nother dynamic right there. Are we going to go down that?
Yeah, so
we'll
just
talk
to touch
like
on
that
it
the whole time. That'd be annoying. Yeah, he did. I liked it.
Yeah, he was such a giving lover, I suppose. Yeah, she enjoyed herself.
That mustache. Never mind.
Never mind. But Rebecca had a lost relationship with not only Sassy, but Sassy's daughter, Nora, who was Rebecca's goddaughter. It's who she sings, Let It Go, the Frozen song during karaoke too. She dedicates that song to her. And, Sassy kind of tells her, like, you climbed that ivory tower all by yourself, and you were the one to make, my 6-year-old daughter cry and think she did something wrong. And those are things that you have to own up to. And it's one of the things that really changed Rebecca for the better and kind of almost like metaphorically slapped her in the face and been like, what have I been doing these past few years? Yeah. So we get an update with that, and we actually get to see and meet Nora, who's now a little bit older. She's not 6 years old anymore.
No, is she 11 or 12 or something like that?
I think she's like 13 now.
Is she 13? Yeah.
And cussing up a storm, and she's
well, I mean, it seems like it's the English way.
That's true. Yeah, she's definitely Sassy's daughter for sure. But she's staying with Rebecca for a few days, and Rebecca, she takes her to some of the things that she used to take her to when she was 6.
Little princess sandwich place, and
she actually runs into Roy, who's catering.
Which was great.
That was funny. Yeah,
that was great. They're walking. They start discussing the guy she was dating. She's not anymore. He's like, was that because of me? He's like, no. Was I wrong? He said, no, you're right. That's why I'm not. He's like, he acknowledged he was, what his assessment was correct.
Yeah.
But then he basically instills on her, these kids don't care what they do. They want to do it with you.
Right.
They want you to be present. I mean, he even said, you want to go to a doctor's visit?
Yeah.
And she's like, yep. Yeah.
She was excited.
Yeah, Phoebe was excited. So
I love scenes between Roy and his niece, man. Like every time they're together, it's adorable. And
yeah,
funny.
Phoebe, his niece, it just kind of takes over the scene.
She does, yeah. Phoebe, that's right. But yeah, so that's kind of that's kind of a lesson learned for Rebecca, because he tells her, it's like, yeah, exactly like you said, they don't need to be entertained or catered to. They just want to feel as though they're a part of your everyday life. So Rebecca, she has the idea later to actually ask Nora, hey, how about tomorrow you join me at the club and, see what a day in the life of, running AFC Richmond is like. And Nora's all about it. Like, she's excited for the first time staying with Rebecca.
Yeah. So let's check out that interaction here.
Wondering, I mean, it could be a terrible idea. Would you want to come to work with me for like the whole day and just join me for meetings and stuff? It could be tremendously boring.
That would be amazing.
Would it?
Yeah, I've always wanted to see what it's like to run a football club.
Really? Since when?
Ever since you started doing it. I'll be down in a sec.
There's a nice source of pride there. You can tell in Rebecca's face where she's, her and Ted had a conversation last season where she was doing some sort of a photo shoot or something for a magazine. And Ted sat down on the bench and she was like, who knows what little girl was reading that magazine and dreaming about being in a, purple, power suit like you are and doing the same kind of things you are and being an inspiration to little girls like that. And I think it's finally coming around and coming home that, wow, it's like from afar, my goddaughter Nora sees me in a way that I didn't realize she saw me and, has an inspiration like that. So Rebecca's just beaming and she can't wait to bring Nora to work the next day.
Well, it's also the point we learned in the last season where she always wanted to have children.
Yeah.
And she's to the point probably in her life now that it's not going to happen, but now she sees her goddaughter looking up to her like she would hope that, a daughter would look at her. So I think there is that when she smiled there at the end of that clip, I think that was a portion of that as well. So it's nice to see the arc of her from being so cold and now from being like almost really so loving, being the mother figure for the Lasso family.
That's right. Yeah, the mother figure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Like that was a big plot towards the end of last season. Just how cold her ex was towards her not having a child, and that was a big deal with her. And another thing too is just like I think as far as a role for Rebecca going forward, just being that mentor, being that person that inspires, a mentor for not only Nora but for Keeley going forward. Giving other women opportunities to succeed and being an example for them. It's something that can definitely help her out in the future. But Nora does get there, and she's very I don't know, she jumps into it. She's very
brash.
astute.
Yeah, there is no. I mean, she's a lot like the Phoebe character.
Yeah,
there is like no filters. It's all right there when she starts telling a story about getting in trouble about chewing gum.
Right.
And
chewing gum.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And she comes out and she said, she could have stayed in the stall and had their other friend just completely take the fall. But she came out and got suspended, and mom was mad, and she had to watch, a 3-hour video on cancer or whatever the full story was. But at the very end of the story is, the moral of the story is do the rightest thing, which is the name of this episode.
Right.
And then you see it in Rebecca's eyes. She's like, I understand. Like the story didn't just like it's a kid telling me a story, and just kind of ignore the point of it.
Yeah,
she got the point of what she was trying to tell her.
Yeah, she definitely said what Rebecca needed to hear at the time to bring Rebecca some clarity to the situation. So this is after Sam came in and told them that he didn't want to be a part of a sponsorship with Dubai Air anymore. And of course, Rebecca understands and she supports Sam in that decision, but she stresses about it because it's like, well, what do we do? Because I'm definitely not firing Sam.
Well, this is after, because she called the actual sponsor, and he was fine with it, but then he was like, cut him.
Right.
And she was like, no. Well, she didn't say no then. She hung up, and that's when the interaction we just spoke about was.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you do? She's kind of in between a rock and a hard place as an owner for a team. You don't want to lose a big sponsor, big enough to where they have their name fully plastered on the front of the jersey.
Yeah, exactly. They're the main one of the team.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, even Rebecca and Sam had some pretty great scenes the first season. They interacted, where Sam came in during the episode where they were breaking the curse out of the masseuse room or whatever. And Sam, even held her jacket when they went to the karaoke bar and stuff. So they've had some nice, sweet interactions before. But yeah, so she's definitely doesn't want to get rid of Sam. He's like we'd mentioned already. He's kind of the new, lead of this team. There's just nothing to it. That's not going to happen. But yeah, that conversation with Nora really kind of sets it in stone for her as far as what she needs to do. And she drafts an email to the owner later. That's like,
that was funny. Nora's laying on the bed next to her, and she's saying all these things of, about his manhood and everything. Right. And then they end it, and she's like, and sign it, badass bitch.
Yeah. And through the while, Rebecca was changing it to very professional language and, niceties. And she actually did sign it, badass bitch, and sent it.
That was funny because when she hit send, she showed Nora, and Nora just kind of smiled. She's like, "Oh, you actually did it!"
Yeah, yeah. And when the team comes out with the the black tape in front of the Dubai Air logo later in the episode, she gets a call from this guy.
Well, first she gets an email saying "okay" or "night" or whatever about the whole Sam thing. That happened. That one happened, and then the phone call happened. You're speaking of.
Yeah, and it's another thing where she just hangs up on the guy. She shows Nora that as she's hanging up on the guy, and Rebecca. This is a big episode as far as like Rebecca taking the power, embracing the power that she has, and doing the right thing with it, doing the rightest thing.
Doing the rightest thing.
What appropriate title for this episode.
But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where the conflict's going to come from. That owner's not going away, or the sponsor. The sponsor's not going away. So there's gonna be more conflict. Like we wanted this episode here to start out with Jamie walking on the field. We didn't quite get that. We got close enough to where, we didn't miss any of the conflict or anything that was going to take place. So I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah.
I want to know where they're going to pick up from here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because this should be a plot point that's dropped. This will probably be worked into the next episode, maybe even the remainder of the episode.
This could be the remainder of the season, because there could be a point where Dubai Air pulls their sponsorship altogether.
Yeah.
And then they're looking for a new sponsor to put on their, on their jerseys.
Yeah, which is interesting. I kind of hope they do that, because you and I talked before hopping on here. I was kind of worried that they took such a big, heady idea and big, issues that are real life issues that are happening today, and kind of boiling it down to one single 40-minute episode, and then kind of being a clean cut resolution at the end. But hopefully this has lasting effects, and we're going to see repercussions and situations that they're going to run into because of this episode going forward.
I think there's absolutely resolution when it came to conflict within the locker room.
Yeah.
Right. That helped mold the team or bring them together as one.
Right.
I mean, from losing the game, for them cheering about that, to, we already talked about Jamie and Sam, and it could be Jamie and the rest of the team as well. Because once they see that leader take that basically lone wolf back in, the prodigal, I mean, they called him the prodigal son before.
Right.
And, welcome him back to the team, and, all your sins are maybe not forgotten, but forgiven.
Right.
And now let's see who you are going forward, and, just move forward. I think that portion was absolutely resolved. The ownership portion and everything that's going to take place outside of the club, from fan reactions, because we already kind of got that little bit of reaction now, the guys in the pub, because they didn't know what to think. Even May didn't know what to think was going on.
Yeah.
The paparazzi was on the field taking pictures like crazy. Mm-hmm. We had the accusation, of corruption from the Nigerian government. We have, Trenton Crim's going to run his article. You know what I mean? Are we going to get another episode like we did in season 1, when Trent, maybe instead of shadowing Ted, he spends a day with Sam?
I don't know. One of the great things about this series is that they could go in any direction. In between episodes, you can kind of speculate where they're going to go, but it's written so well that they can go any number of places and add to the story. The only thing I know is that the next episode is going to be a Christmas episode.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to go forward a few weeks or not. I think they made a point of, when they were on the pitch practicing, it was snowing.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not sure how close to the holiday season they were, but yeah, the next episode is during that holiday season.
Yeah. So
and there's going to be, we haven't gotten to a point where, like, this is something I would know. This is something I wouldn't expect you or the casual person that's watching this show know. But there is an international break where there's international call-ups to the national teams. So, for instance, would Nigeria call Sam up to the squad, knowing now what he just accused the nation, them of? Would Jamie be called up to possibly England's, national team, and so and so on and so forth? So there's usually a break in there where there's no games played, because those players are with their national teams, and then the players that didn't get called up, there's kind of a downtime for.
That is so interesting, because that's one of the things that Sam sacrificed a picture of the Nigerian team when they were doing that episode where they were burning things in the barrel for that the haunting. And that was his biggest dream, is to play for the Nigerian team, and I'm wondering how and if there's any kind of repercussions because of this. Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, I want to see if they address that international break.
Yeah,
at any point, which could, like I said, no, I actually honestly forgot about the picture and the exorcism of that room,
right?
And Sam's dream to play for the national team of Nigeria,
right?
So I'm curious if they're going to that won't happen, because of what the stand he decided to take.
Well, all we can do is speculate. That's what we do in After Show, right? To talk about the latest one and talk about where they could go from here.
Dude, this is so much fun.
I do. Man, I love Ted Lasso. And another good episode that took on some heavy issues, but they did it the Ted Lasso way, right? So we were laughing.
AFC Richmond.
Richmond till we die. We're Richmond till we die. Anyway, we are Dadnarok. We do this every week, Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. Check us out at YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. If you guys haven't already, check out our YouTube page. Go and watch previous episodes of our Ted Lasso After Show. Watch our other after shows. We did them for WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon Winter Soldier, as well as Mandalorian. You can also check out dadnarok.com if you want to check out our audio podcast. We also have links to our shop at TeePublic. So, yeah, I think that's it. We should probably call it a week.
I think it's a good place to go ahead and say thanks for watching, guys, and go ahead and keep it cheesy.
Barbecue sauce.